Thank you kindly for joining us. It's a Tuesday afternoon in downtown Charlottesville in our building, in our studio, on our network, the I Love CVille Network, and we have a lot we want to talk about today. Business development is the name of today's game. We're going to talk about who's moving, who's shaking, who's closing, and who's growing on today's program. And today's guest is Conan Owen. He's the CEO and the owner of Speedy of Central Virginia. This man is as connected from a biz dev standpoint as anyone I know in this community. He's arguably the second person small business owners in this area call. The first is someone like me who's going to coordinate a lease or some kind of connection with a landlord or some kind of real estate. The second person is Conan Owen. His company, Speedy of Central Virginia, anything signage or logo related, he can take care of. You need a window decal, you need signage, Judah, you need direct mail, you need a tri-pamphlet, a pamphlet, or a threefold pamphlet, you need stickers, you need merchandise, you need glassware, you need pens, anything that you can put a logo on. Speedy of Central Virginia has you covered. And goodness gracious, have I been looking forward to today's show. We're going to talk Albemarle County as it pursues a mission to grow its commercial and business tax base. The current numbers at about 11.3% of collections in Albemarle County are tied to business and commercial. They want to get that number, the elected officials in Albemarle County, closer to 20%. We'll talk about that with Conan Owen. We'll talk about the impact of the University of Virginia and all the turmoil with Conan Owen. We're going to talk who's closing their restaurants, who's closing their businesses, and who's opening new ones with Conan Owen. Today's program is locked and loaded, including some real estate development with an apartment building being turned down, being turned into something special, with a hotel being burnt down. Judah Wickhauer off camera, studio camera, two-shot. Let's welcome Speedy's Conan Owen, my friend. Good Tuesday afternoon.
Good Tuesday to you, Jerry. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. We'll start open-ended. Scatter shooting like I do with Jerry Ratcliffe, anywhere you want to go.
Sure.
What's been in your notebook, what's been in your desk, the deal flow that you are seeing, the temperature on the street from an economy and business standpoint, what's on your brain?
Still strong. There has been a little softness in UVA purchasing. I've heard people, not related to the research field saying we're putting that project on hold because our budget's been cut. One of our major clients last year was one of the advancement departments that did Jim Ryan's road shows. Well, there is no Jim Ryan. I don't know that alumni are going to come meet with an interim president on a road show. So that segment of, the UVA business isn't there anymore. But generally speaking, there are a lot of new businesses that are, constructing their new facilities, renovating closed ones. And just generally speaking, I still see the economy being very strong in this region.
What do you make of the Jim Ryan fiasco?
It's a lot of self-inflicted wounds. I don't know all of the sequences, the things I've read. It's just like there are certain rules. If you want certain rules, you got to play the game. And if you don't want the money, then go your own way, like Hillsdale College did and College of the Ozarks. But if you're gonna rely on federal funds, you need to comply with their mandates, whatever they happen to be, whether you agree with them or not. Just like once upon a time, every state had to raise its drinking age to 21, or they wouldn't get federal highway funds.
You're a Darden graduate. Look at it through the lens as someone who has origin blue in his body, and somebody who's a business owner that knows that UVA is the driver of the economy locally. First, the emotional lens. Ryan either pressured or voluntarily resigns. The Board of Visitors is under tremendous turmoil. There's speculation that if Abigail Spanberger wins the governor's mansion, which right now she looks like the front runner, that she may gut the board in totality. Few colleges or universities have been on the forefront of this DEI crossfire like UVA. Just a few in the Ivy League, perhaps, have superseded UVA with DEI drama. The emotional lens. Unpack it for us.
That's what it's going to be. It is emotion because you hear people, student council says we have vote of no confidence. It's like, that's nice. I don't have any say in how Google handles my online ads, and they constantly do things that I don't like. I can vote no confidence all day long, but unless I vote with my wallet, it's really not going to make a difference. Then the flip side of that is the university. If the university, how much money do they have in their endowment?
$14 billion plus.
$14 billion. How much do they get from the feds every year?
It was like between 300 and 400 million.
Okay, so you've got what, a 40-year slush fund in your endowment that could
pennies from the feds.
It just seems that they're missing the forest for the trees.
You're saying that comment means why not operate without ties to the federal government if there in fact is overreach from the DOJ and from the Trump administration? Is that what you're saying?
If that's what it is, because if that's what you think it is, then you should decide accordingly. Just like you're saying, well, Spanberger gut the Board of Visitors. It'd be pretty unprecedented. But like so many things, be careful what you wish for, because one day the shoe's going to be on the other foot. And you could have somebody come in and gut every college's Board of Visitors in the country on day one. Is that really the way you want to run your state? I don't think that's very productive, because it's very short-term thinking.
John Blair, welcome to the broadcast. Georgia Gilmer, Rob Neal, thank you for watching the show. Jason Noble, Bob Yarborough, viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Bobby Shada, welcome to the show. Comments already coming in. We'll get to them in a matter of moments. Let's get to the top headline. Albemarle County. This is bananas to me, and this is flying under the radar, and that's why you wanted to talk about it here. Albemarle County is at 11.3% in tax collection with the line item business and industrial. And it wants to get to closer to 20%, which is an astronomical leap.
Yeah, almost double.
Almost double. And right now, the politics or the perception of the push to 20% is we want to alleviate the burden on homeowners.
Yeah.
And their tax base, which I question. That's maybe the second topic.
Question,
here.
I don't believe it.
I don't believe
for
it.
a minute.
Okay. Open-ended, anywhere you want to go on this topic as you put the lower third on screen, Judah.
Well, I'm old enough to remember 1986 when Ronald Reagan signed the TEFRA, which Congress promised $4 in spending cuts for every dollar in new taxes. Well, they collected $1 in new taxes and they kept spending more money. They never cut it. So when I hear the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors say, we want to grow, we want to double our business tax revenue so that we don't have, we don't have to keep ratcheting up real estate assessments or whatever the question is, then okay, great. I want to see that in writing with a mechanism that's actually is going to be enforced and can't be overruled by future boards of visitors. That says when you reach a certain milestone, yeah, your assessments can go up, but as your assessment goes up, your tax rate goes down, and that the dollars allocated for schools from the residential property tax revenue stream stays fixed. And that's the way it used to be. It used to be that as assessments went up, tax rates went down so that they would be able to say, this is how much we're going to spend on this line item in the budget every year. And that way, the taxpayers aren't getting persecuted by living in a jurisdiction that has rising property values. And it affects renters too, because let's face it, and if I'm not mistaken, a non-owner occupied has a higher property tax rate than an owner-occupied building, so they're building in those property tax increases into your rent.
Yeah, the taxes are passed down to tenants, guys. Don't listen to any politician; they're always passed down to the tenants. How do you increase tax collection with commercial and business by a 2x factor in Albemarle County?
Stop with the crazy zoning.
Break it down.
Well, you've got first of all, what is it they say? Only X percent of the county is developable.
5%.
Yeah. Well, how are you going to squeeze what you need into that 5%, especially if you don't have the site-ready locations?
Yeah.
Trying to find flex space, for my business, for instance, where I need a small retail office component and, a fairly good size, wide open industrial space with the loading dock.
But you found it, though.
I found it, but not in the county. I found it in the city of all places.
Yeah.
But there just weren't options out there. And there are lots of businesses, light manufacturing. You just heard on the news, Icarus came out with a new knee brace, and they 3D print those in Charlottesville. There are not many places in Charlottesville that have an existing building that has the electrical load that can handle that kind of 3D printing. They looked at my old space over on Harris Street, and they're just like, we'd blow the fuse here in about 2 minutes.
Is that why you moved?
Well, when I moved on my own, I needed a new space because my lease wasn't going to be renewed because someone else wanted to lease the whole building, and they preferred to have the government paycheck,
You
the
have
government
a
rent check.
you have a much better spot now.
Oh, I love it. It's so much better. It's more convenient. It's better laid out. It's better suited for our business. We now have a garage where we can bring in vehicles and do decaling for fleets. Got plenty of room for our cats to run around. They love exploring.
Woodard
so
Properties, your
great.
landlord?
They are.
They routinely watch the program. I'll throw this to you. If you're going to expand the tax base with business and industrial from 11.3% to closer to 20%, the fear is Albemarle County's econ development team is going to pursue opportunities that will further gentrify Albemarle County. They specifically, folks that bring this concern up, point to technology, biotechnology, data science, and data centers as ways they're going to try to expand the tax base. And these ways are opportunities that may or may not cater to the old guard of Albemarle County that's currently on the financial margin. Do you buy that argument?
Well, no. Well, actually, yes, unless they pair proper housing development to go with it. Because if you're trying to put 10 pounds of people in a 5-pound county, you're going to end up with these problems that we've got now. But there is plenty of land out there. There's plenty of land that can be developed, put more housing on there, get it closer to where people work. I mean, if you look at all the growth north of the county, it's supporting Injik and the new North Fork area. That's the future. It really is. And you can say, yeah, they're higher paying jobs and they're going to force other people out. It's like, well, not if you give them a nicer, higher pay, a nicer, more luxurious destination there so that they don't have to buy the 1940s ranch and tear it down to put up their house for their 4 kids in the pool.
Hutch Carpenter giving you props.
Another UVA in Darden. He's a double who.
He's watching the program, giving you some love. Vanessa Parkhill wants to follow up on what you said of lowering the tax rate on real estate as the business commercial tax line item increases. She says, hasn't that happened elsewhere? It's happened in Nelson County. Nelson County has actually chosen to either drop or keep the real estate tax rate steady over a number of years because it's had incremental tax sources elsewhere to help fund its budget. Vanessa in Earlysville, we appreciate you watching the show. If you could pick a pocket in Albemarle County, Charlottesville, or Central Virginia, a pocket or area of that region, county, or city that has the most tailwinds or upside from a business development standpoint, what would that pocket be and why?
It would either be one of two things. I think the whole Zion's Crossroads, Fluvanna area has a lot of upsides, and not just because of the data centers, but things that can go, even just businesses, somebody like Icarus needs a manufacturing plant. They can keep their headquarters on Market Street. That's fine. But, if you need a nice warehouse, you can move out there and build something relatively inexpensively. Your workers can live out there a lot more affordably, without a doubt. Northern Albemarle County, with all the biotech and defense going on up there, there's a lot of land east and west of 29 that is pretty wide open. You drive back through Earlysville, they've got some luxury developments up there, but there's still a lot of wide open spaces where you could put, 100 townhouses or 100 single-family homes in an area and not destroy the quality of life. Yeah, there are gonna be spots, but the people have to go somewhere. And if you want economic development, if you want, to lower residential tax rates, you're either gonna have to slash your spending, which no one seems to have an appetite to do around here, or you're gonna have to moderate that and just bring in more revenue.
Conan Owen dropping knowledge here on the program. I drove to work this morning and got stuck in back-to-school traffic. The traffic is exponentially more significant now. I believe county schools start tomorrow. The pros and cons of the impact of back to school on small business, Conan Owen.
Well, it's been generally good. Sure, a lot of people get their school supplies from the big boxes, but a lot of them they're buying it locally, and you can complain all you want about Sam's Club and Walmart and Staples and Costco, but they're at least employing people here in town, and a lot of people. So that's a good thing. There are also a lot of great nonprofit organizations that are helping the community, between Backpack Buddies and the Back to School Bash. There are a lot of folks that are getting involved, and they source a lot of their supplies from the local community. I don't think people are going on Amazon and buying 100 backpacks to donate. They're going to Staples or Sam's and at least buying it here in town.
Jay Muley,
Yes.
watching the
Darden
program
classmate.
in Mexico City, Mexico, I believe. Darden is representing right here with Conan and Owen on the broadcast. Cons for back to school? Any at all?
Well, I mean, because of all of the transportation problems we've had since COVID with moving the schools, the traffic is bad. And I'm just shocked at the number of parents who take their kids to school. And I get it on one hand. It's, people say, well, it's a safety concern. But, in my neighborhood out in Ivy, there's a bus stop on the corner and there's usually one or two parents standing with 6 or 8 kids. So they take turns kind of, being the sheepdog. But yeah, just the number of people who drop their kids off. And Charlottesville also has a very high number of private schools that don't have transportation. So, there's always that rush. When my previous business was located over in Ivy Square, you made sure you got in there before the St. Anne's crowd showed up.
What do you make of the Ivy Square potential development? What do you make of that entire Ivy quarter? UVA pays what, $20+ million for Ivy Square. UVA owns the Moe's barbecue location. UVA is trying to connect the Boar's Head with the academic village and grounds proper. I mean, that stretch right there is primed for some repositioning.
It is. I just don't know that UVA is the one to be doing it.
Wow. Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, it contributes nothing to the tax base other than their retail spend, which they would spend if they were located elsewhere on property UVA already owns. I think it is going to be very detrimental to there are a lot of small businesses there that have been there a long time.
Was Ivy Square Shopping Center a good shopping center to run a business out of?
Well, mine was a little different because I wasn't customer facing. It was a call center. So we were around back by the train tracks.
Yeah, I think Robert Radafera has a
Yeah,
photo studio.
actually, he took over the space right across from us. Ours was taken over by the escape room.
Okay.
So that worked fine. But, the folks upstairs, they had a Pizza Hut for a while. That didn't last. But, the Eternal Attic, which is now for sale, has been there forever and expanded into their space. The Vet has been there forever. There was one antique shop, Helen Story. She left town for a while. She's back now out by Selvage, further out on Ivy Road and that new Antiques Road where Comer, the folks across the street, moved out to. So that's
Hunter Craig's project.
That space has been vacant for a while. But there seem to be a fair number of sustainable businesses in there. There's now a new yoga studio in that development. But it just, UVA as a landlord is you never know when they're going to flick the switch and say, we're going to turn this into administrative offices or a foundation, call center for soliciting alumni, or they're just all over the place. And I think it would really it would be a loss for the community to lose so many small businesses, because that whole if you were to look at that strip all the way up to the Boar's Head, you've got Vivace, you've got
Shenandoah Joe's.
You've got
Pico Wrap.
Yeah, the Pico Wrap's
Multiple
still there.
dentists there.
You've got the dentist. You've got the vet at Ivy Square. You've got all the stuff around the backside of that. You've got
Foods of All Nations.
Yeah, Foods.
Moe's.
Foods has been. Yeah, Foods is a staple. I can't imagine people, looking at UVA and saying, "Oh, gee, thanks for, telling Foods to take a hike." It's not exactly a food grocery over there, but it's still, I'm always amazed people still have house accounts out there and they can charge their groceries. It's really a step back in time, but they have a great selection and great quality.
And the location and the convenience.
And the location is great for so many people out in the west part of town.
Logan Wells Claylow, welcome to the broadcast. Viewers and listeners, put your comments in the feed. William McChesney, Maria Marshall Barnes watching the show. Multiple folks are asking for your take on Home Depot's impact on Albemarle County and the area.
I think it's going to be very positive, assuming they can get staff. I don't think people aren't working at Lowe's because Lowe's is a horrible place to work or they don't pay anything. It's a competitive market out there. I'm not sure where Home Depot is getting their staff from, but good luck to them, because that's the difference. That's why people don't like Lowe's, is the customer experience is just atrocious. And hopefully the people they do get, they'll last. I don't know how many they're bringing in from other stores. I know when Costco opened a decade ago, they brought people in from other stores and relocated them to Charlottesville so that there was a certain amount of experience and culture that they were able to transfer. I hope it happens because it's, it's a big part of it'll be a big part of the tax base in terms of at least retail sales. I don't know, what kind of deal they got on the property itself. It will, I think, lead to, more businesses going into that pretty blighted part between Albemarle Square across Rio Road and Fashion Square itself. And, the out parcels, you don't need all that parking anymore. So I can see a lot of, maybe a strip of businesses being added out in an island, sort of like Barracks Road has, where Ralph Sampson's place is.
Have you seen, or do you continue to hear the headwinds with labor and hiring locally?
To a certain extent, less so. It's always going to be there in food service and in kind of the entry level, but that's why it's entry level. You're not meant to be there very long. If you are, then that's a different conversation. But that's also, I think, what leads to a lot of the people leaving and saying, well, I didn't think I'd be here 2 years and I haven't developed into anything else, so I'm just going to go figure something else out. And it kind of leaves a lot of that. But you also see the kiosks taking over, and it's having a big impact. You look at what's happening with the new Wawas and Sheets and how you order your food when you go in there. And it eliminates that whole counter issue, and it allows for a slightly more skilled employee that you can command a higher salary that is likely going to reduce your turnover.
Christopher Ketchum giving you props. He says, Conan owns a wealth of knowledge. I'm always interested in hearing what Conan has to say. Christopher Ketchum is a talented and unicorn in a lot of ways, in that he's a real estate photographer and a realtor.
An aerial photographer, too.
Aerial photographer.
He does drone
real
photography.
Estate photography,
Yep.
drone photography, and a realtor. What's the temperature you're hearing with real estate locally? Seeing a lot of cooling,
yes,
statistically.
Definitely slowing. Some of our real estate clients, we're seeing fewer of kind of like the brochures for houses, because they'll do those up front, and then if the property sits, they don't reorder because they're like, I'm not sure what's going on with this. But generally speaking, it's been okay. But yeah, it's definitely been cooling a lot. Interest rates haven't come down. It's been, a year now?
Yeah, it's about the same for a year and change.
So I think that has a lot to do with it.
Not only are interest rates about the same for a year and change, but real estate values have upticked anywhere from 5 to 10% over the same period. So things have gotten more expensive.
Yeah, so you've got, it's sort of like the real estate tax rate and the value of the home. So yeah, the rate may be the same, but now the value's gone up, so you're getting squeezed on that. And of course, that's going to change when the new facilities come online here in the area, between the hotel, the data center, the other school.
Biotech, yeah.
Biotech. And getting back to what you're saying about, the UVA position, I've heard from in the hotel industry that they're already pushing a lot of the on-campus needs to the not yet completed hotel and conference center away from the commercial independently owned properties in town. Well, it means that they're saying, well, English department, if you want to have your annual retreat, you can't go to the Graduate or to the Doyle. You have to go up Ivy Road and patronize our facility. So again, they're competing against
local.
They're competing against the business community at large.
Ross Franklin, who I think is watching in the United Kingdom in London, is watching the program and giving you some props right now on the show. Viewers and listeners, let us know your comments. We'll relay them live on air to Conan Owen on the show. And comments continue to come in. Curious of your take of what the most important drivers of the local economy are. Clearly, UVA is number one. How would your top five round out there?
Surprisingly, I think a lot of people don't realize this is defense and everything related to it. NGIC, all of the civilian contractors, the JAG school. And I think that is something that's going to grow, and it pairs very well with, things like the School of Data Science and whatnot, because, the work that they do up there at Ravenna Station, and they just got a government grant to build more infrastructure, sewer and electrical lines and whatnot for future building. They didn't give them that money just to put up a windmill.
So you go, and we know the we know the defense sector we're in agreement, the second largest driver of the economy. A few years ago, the County of Albemarle, the County of Greene, and the City of Charlottesville, in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce, commissioned an analysis on the impact of the defense sector locally. And a few years ago, that impact was at $1.3 billion annually, and that number either is flat or slightly uptick, depending on who you ask. How would the rest of your top five look like? I mean, especially with real estate being potentially flat here. We may be looking at, for the first time in a little while, either flat or a slightly down year over year, with total volume.
Well, I'd say the flip side of real estate is construction. They're just the development piece between what UVA is building with the different private projects going on around town. That motel that burned down years ago finally got razed to the ground, and it's the same folks that are doing the apartment building out on Ivy Road. But again, with the zoning issues, that could very much be, a lot of the stuff could be put on hold. But you still got all the housing going out at Old Trail. I was out there yesterday.
That's
and,
crazy.
Just a big red. Big field of red dirt.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember where was the other place I was driving by, and I was like, wait a minute, where'd that come from? And yeah, they're built, but they need it. No question about it. So construction's a major part, but also all of the growth and the renovation. You've got new buildings being repurposed, and you've got whether it's a small construction crew or kind of the more mid-size folks like NOLA Builds, or you've got the big out of town folks like Whiting Turner doing the UVA Community Credit Union headquarters.
Break that development down. Sorry, talk about that.
UVA Community Credit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a beautiful building. They've already got the siding up. And it's, I've talked to the folks at Whiting Turner. They're a client of ours, and they're essentially establishing an office in Charlottesville. So they're planning on being here in the long haul for a lot of more projects, whether it's out at North Fork, Ravenna Station, UVA, or just the general, the general area. You've got Horrigan, you've got Nielsen, you've got Skanska, you've got Whiting Turner. They're everywhere. Clark is doing the big housing project up at Darden. It's gonna keep coming, and more dorms coming on campus, and things getting torn down and replaced, or in some cases you could take down a small building and put up a large one. Rita's Bright Beginnings just had their grand opening out on Commonwealth. They had this little mid-century modern ranch office building, and whoever the owner is popped the top on it and put this beautiful modern second story on, and it's now triple the square footage. And it's a great new daycare facility. So they're taking advantage of the footprint, which kind of gets back to, you say, where's the growth going to come from? Where are we going to build this tax revenue? It's doing things like that. Taking an existing building that may be underutilizing the footprint and, building on that. You look at the county office building, which, don't get me started on why it's in the city and not in the county, but you've got that giant parking lot. Surely something could fit in there. Whether it's, they sell it off and make it a commercial thing, or they make it, affordable housing for first responders. I don't know, but there are lots of underutilized footprints in this area because it was developed, 40, 50, 60 years ago when you weren't thinking up, you were thinking, just kind of building something up. You didn't need to. It was like LA, LA grew out. Here they put so many limits on it that you can't grow out as much as you used to. So you've got to grow up. But, also think about other things, not necessarily in Charlottesville, the tire factory down in Scottsville. The old
Dr. Hurt owns that.
Yeah, the old thread factory out on 151 that's now a tasting room.
Yeah.
But it's just like, really, that's the only thing you could put on this property? I mean, surely there's got to be some kind of tech manufacturing that could go out there. There's this wonderful building that looks like an old school out in Greenwood that's been sitting vacant for I don't know how long. Maybe the building isn't the thing that stays, but that footprint, could bring something to a rural part of, the area that isn't grapes or peaches.
Neil Williamson, watching the program right now, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum, he shares a link. Albemarle County was awarded a $9.7 million grant from the Virginia Business Ready Sites program. I'll read a few paragraphs from this for you, Conan. He wants us to talk about this. This is a release on the Albemarle County website. Albemarle County has been awarded $9.7 million in Virginia Business Ready Sites program development grants administered by the Virginia Economic Development Partnership to support continued site readiness work at Rivanna Futures. The Virginia Business Ready Sites program partners with localities, utilities, and state agencies to fund infrastructure improvements that create operations-ready sites. The grant will help ensure the Rivanna Future site is project ready, providing an advantage in attracting projects and new jobs to Albemarle County. Last sentence, then your take here, Neil, or your take here, Conan. Funding will be used to advance infrastructure design and complete pre-construction activities that prepare the property for future development. That's from Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. And then he's got some insight for you on the office building. But first, your take on what he just shared.
Well, the question for me is, I don't know the geography up there particularly. Is that just within the bounds of Rivanna Station? So is it really focused on just the defense? Because I didn't realize they had a security gate up there, and it's not Rivanna Station because it's a cute name. That's actually a military location designation, like Cameron Station used to be up in Alexandria, or Vint Hill Station on the way up on 29. So it's actually a military base, so to speak. So if that's the case, then that kind of limits who it is that can be going in there, as opposed to if it's just in that general direction, and it could be light industrial tech offices. But but that's what we need, because we don't have developed space. We don't have recyclable facilities around here. There are very few of them.
Neil Williamson appreciates the interview. He says the Albemarle County office building was the old Lane High School location, and he's been told the asphalt parking lot that you guys are talking about is the current home of the old football stadium of the Albemarle County of Lane High School.
Oh.
I did not know that, Neil Williamson. William McChesney, Bill McChesney, that's up your alley. Can you confirm, Bill McChesney, that the Albemarle County office building and its parking lot was the old football stadium at the old Lane High School? I would love to know that. That would be great conversation fodder here. Comments continue to come quickly in. This one's an interesting one. Neither of you boys have highlighted how blue-collar workers continue having a foothold and a life in Albemarle County with any of these economic development plans.
Well, I would disagree there, because I think things like high-tech manufacturing, you look at Blue Ridge Community College, they have a whole program, a whole degree program on running, digital routers and digital manufacturing and robotics, that are the kinds of things like 3D printers. So there's a lot that goes into that. There's also, the quality control on a lot of these things. They have to be tested. I mean, if you've ever seen one of those Icarus knee braces, they literally have to move it back and forth, and that stuff's all custom made, so it has to be made to specific tolerances, and you have to compare it to the scan, and things like that. And and then there's also just the other side of things. It may not be glamorous, but you still have the fulfillment side, as they have to pick and pack and ship all of these things, and then it has to be done in a warehouse, and you need somebody operating the forklift, and you need people providing the materials that go to the 3D printer. There's a lot of stuff that can be done that isn't splitting genes or splitting atoms.
Janice Boyce Trevelyan, to answer your question, I know they have guards at the gates. Comments continue to come in, and we'll get to these comments here. Vanessa Parkhill confirms, yes, the Albemarle County office building was Lane High School, with the football field located right there alongside the high school. Thank you, Vanessa Parkhill of Earlysville, for watching the program. Print, radio, and television continue to watch the show. I would encourage you, print, radio, and television, to interview this guy, Conan Owen, for any biz development questions or needs you may have, because the guy is super, super connected. Still a little bit of the pushback here. Maybe we make a push or offer some commentary on the trades and how that could be a focal point for keeping blue-collar workers local to Albemarle County.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, one thing I will give props to UVA for is their apprentice program. Unfortunately, they eat all of them up to maintain their own facilities and don't. It's rare that they get out into the wild workforce, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, trade school. Let's face it, less than a third of the country goes to college. In Charlottesville, it's 2/3 of the people have college degrees. So there is obviously...
Is that the number?
Yeah.
That's the number? Wow.
Yeah. So you've got, essentially compared to another comparable town, you've got half the number of blue-collar workers supporting this town. So there should be great opportunity for them. And it can be, in different kinds of manufacturing. It can be in transportation and logistics. I mean, let's face it, we're, 29, we've got 64, we've got 81 not too far away. I mean, you look at all the distribution centers in the valley. A lot of them are a fair way up 81 or down 81 from 64. So you don't have to be at a crossroads necessarily, but you have to have the facility in place. You look at that distribution center they build out on 151. It's just like, that's not near an interstate, not compared to Charlottesville or some parts of Albemarle, but they've got this huge facility out there that employs a lot of blue-collar folks. And not to mention all the folks that have to build and maintain these kinds of facilities. There's also, but yeah, I think, you've got logistics, you've got construction, you've got manufacturing and tech manufacturing. If I were able to get 3-phase power into my building, I could get a CNC router to do custom-shaped signs, but then I'd need an operator.
Right. And probably more room, wouldn't you?
I could squeeze by.
Yeah.
At least for now, but that's not happening anytime soon.
How many square feet do you have?
6,500.
That's pretty big.
It is.
6,500 square feet, and it's
utilized.
I was going to say, I've taken a tour with you.
Yeah, it's pretty well utilized.
Yeah.
We've got, it's pretty well utilized.
John Blair watched it on LinkedIn. His photo on screen is 2 individuals with not only a finger, but an entire hand on the area's pulse. I'd like to know if you two believe the 2050 Weldon Cooper population estimates of 152,000 for Albemarle County and 57,000 for Charlottesville. Do you take the over, under, or push on those population estimates? So
that's
Weldon,
2050?
2050, what are we at?
Well, I was going to say, where are we now?
I think we're around 115,000 in Albemarle County. Let me give you
piece
an
of
exact
cake.
number. I'll give you the exact number.
I'll take the over.
I'm going to take the over too. Albemarle County population, I'll give you an exact number. In 2024, it was 117,313. So let's just call it 117,000.
Yeah.
So Weldon Cooper is saying a 33,000 delta uptick by the year 2050.
20%. Oh, yeah, easy.
You say easy.
Easy.
Wow.
Easy. In 25 years? Yeah, that's not even 5% a year.
Yeah, easy 33% uptick.
Yeah.
What's the impact on that on Albemarle County?
Again, what kind of jobs are they? And where are they, where are they commuting to work? My brother's in Northern Virginia. He lives out in Fairfax, but he's 15 minutes from his tech job. He doesn't go into D.C. I grew up inside the Beltway, and both of my parents drove into town every day.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, that was 40 years ago. But
different, but still.
But it was a different world. But still, it's just like now the jobs are out on that tech ring. 120 was Route 28 out by Dulles. And you've got the same thing up in Gaithersburg. Charlottesville needs to start thinking like that. And you're not going to do that if you're pushing everything further and further into the city. And I think people will start to make decisions on their location based on their job, because you're not going to widen 250. You're not going to widen 29. You're not going to widen 20, at least not very far. So all of a sudden transportation becomes an issue and people don't want to spend their lives commuting. I think the Afton bus is a brilliant idea. I think they could really support something like that, especially around just UVA and hospital workers. Just run shuttles at change of shift time.
These are really good ideas.
To certain points out in the city and then or out of town. I mean, you drive up 29 and you get outside of Culpeper and they've got commuter lots for people going to DC. So I think it's feasible, and not with the issue we had with CAT a few weeks ago. It's $150,000 a day.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought
to
that
operate
up.
that. It's just like that's one of those things where it's just like, you got to be kidding me. It's like you've got these people who do the charter buses to New York for $29 a person.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that it's $152,000 a day to add CAT service 1 day a week. It just doesn't math.
So, okay, I'm glad you brought this up. I had forgotten this. but I wanted to talk about this with you. First, the Charlottesville population currently is 44,764 as of 2024. So let's call that 45,000.
Yeah.
And Weldon Cooper predicts 57,000 by 2050.
Okay, again, a 20. It's about a 25%. Yeah, it's about the same. Yeah.
I'm more confident in it happening in Albemarle County than in Charlottesville City. Are you?
It's going to be tricky to cram that many more people
in 10.2 square miles
within the city limits without, even with the new zoning ordinance. It's going to be tough.
But as gambling men, I know you got a little gamble to you too.
Oh boy, yeah.
You take the over on both.
I'll take the over on the area. I'll take the county and the area population. Not necessarily. I think Albemarle may overshoot and the city may under.
Okay, so you don't think over on city on the population?
I don't know where they're going to go. It also depends. How do they count student housing?
Yeah, good question.
Because let's face it, those people eat and spend money and shop, and mainly here in town.
Right.
So. Yeah, and do they end up in near more apartment buildings? Technically, it's if it's not on campus, it's a unit that could go to a full-time resident.
Conan Owen is good at this this format here. CAT, Charlottesville Area Transit. We find out a few weeks ago. This boggles my mind. Boggles your mind. For Sunday service, currently Sunday not running, $8 million. To launch Sunday service for Charlottesville Area Transit. That's 52 days a year. We take the 8 million, we divide it by 52, we get 153,846 per day.
I don't know how that's possible.
That's bananas.
Yeah. But here's a great local opportunity for you. Perona Robotics. How about self-driving buses?
They're trying.
If you could do that, you get a local business working with the city to create this. And I'm sorry, forget electric buses. They cost 3 times as much as gas buses.
You hear that, Michael Payne?
And what do? You still have to. And
they break down.
And 66% of electricity still comes from fossil fuels. So you're not really saving the environment. You're creating this huge expense, and then you've got these batteries you're going to have to deal with. And if it drops below 20 degrees, they aren't going to start. It's like, great, if you want to do that with your business and get a fleet of this, but don't take our tax money to do something that makes you feel better when it actually is worse off for the people you're trying to serve. You could have more buses and more drivers serving the folks who don't have transportation.
One of the smartest things I've ever heard said, Judah Wickower on the I Love CVille Network. Amen. I hope the
county's the same way. The county bought an electric bus and it was $300 and something thousand.
Pressured into it.
And it's just like, and here's a place where you don't have you don't have bus drivers. Guess what? Buy 2 buses and take the other $150,000 and spend money on hiring the 2 bus drivers.
Yeah. Let me throw this to you. The City of Charlottesville is looking to outsource ad placement on Charlottesville area transit buses. I'm going to give you...
Sign me up.
Okay, so you would take this? That's what I was going to ask you.
I wouldn't advertise on it.
They're only you would manage it. They're only allocating 35... They want third parties.
Yeah.
Basically people like you and I.
Yep.
Right? To manage the ad placement on Charlottesville area transit buses.
I'd take that tomorrow.
35%, any revenue collected, 35% goes to people like you and I, 65% goes to the city.
Great.
You like the model?
Well, see, unlike you, I would be printing the ads that go on the side of the bus and on the bus stops.
Fair enough. Okay, so you have a little bit more vertical integration.
So I have a leverage point there,
okay,
where that 35% management fee is just gravy. I make the money. It's like I make the money on the signs and the window perfs and changing out the campaigns every month.
Did you fill a request for a proposal to do this?
No, I haven't received it.
It was open. It was solicited by the city.
Well, usually I get alerts when the city is looking for something that's in my field, but I haven't seen that. But I'll have to look it up.
I'm perhaps creating revenue for Conan Owen here. The deadline is today.
Oh, well, that's going to be a little tricky.
Deadline is today.
I'll go back and look into that.
For bids for firms who want to manage ads on Charlottesville area transit buses. This is interesting. The city of Charlottesville's budget for fiscal year 2026 includes a total of $15,879,000 in revenues that go to Charlottesville area transit. This according to Sean Tubbs.
That's the expenditure on.
Yep.
CAT.
Of that amount, $253,000 is used for marketing. However, this year's budget, according to Sean Tubbs, anticipates no revenue from advertising. CAT earned $51,385 in revenue in fiscal year 2022, but that number dropped to $12,168 in fiscal year 2023 and $5,700 in fiscal year 2024. $5,700. The budget for 2025 fiscal year anticipated $25K, but the exact amount won't be known to the public until after the audit of the year's budget. All this according to Sean Tubbs and Info CVille. They're now trying to partner with a third-party firm to sell the signage on the buses. The deadline is close of business today. I doubt anyone has applied. This could be
I'll have to go down and do my speed typing. No, I mean,
visibility on buses, though? I attributed it to previous shows to visibility. Someone pitched me a business model of wanting to put ads, banner ads, on our trash cans.
Yeah.
And so you buy either model, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Break us down.
Have you been to New York City?
I have been to New York City.
Well,
yeah.
that-
New York City is a different animal, though. You're talking about the buses and the ads on the buses in New York City?
Ads on the buses, ads on the trash cans in New York City. I was just there, what was it, like 6 months ago?
But because of the dense population of walkers and pedestrians and the population that uses public transportation in New York City, those ads have more visibility.
Right, but the bigger visibility is the bus driving by. And you seeing it on the back of the bus when you're stuck in traffic.
This.
I'm going to seriously look into it, because the other thing is you charge by eyeballs, or at least you used to. I don't know.
Any ads charged by eyeballs.
Well, yeah, I don't know. You talk to the local TV stations, show me your rate sheet, and they're like, "Well, we don't really have one." It's
Dude,
like
Conan Owen just said something that's extremely applicable. The legacy media that is hesitant to provide us with the rate, with the eyeball, with the rate cards, with the visibility, with the total reach, is a red flag.
there was a whole industry. It was called Gray. Was it Gray that set, if you have this many readers and this demographic, this was your rate? There used to be, magazines all had a rate card, and TV stations all had. Now you don't get that anymore. Now it's like, well, and then there's digital, and there's like, no, I want to know how many eyeballs am I reaching, and who are these people?
Right.
Well, at least you can say, well, anyone who drives down the city of Charlottesville may see my sign on the side of a bus stop. You don't have to be a bus rider, because quite frankly, if you're in the shelter, you're not seeing the sign that's on the outside. It's the people passing by that see it. And, with the fast food restaurants in town, they don't have to be the national chain. It can even be the local, like Christian's Pizza. He's got how many locations here in town?
Yeah.
Now, he doesn't own them all, but you've got Grit Coffee. You've got Greenberries. You've got all kinds of folks here that would be interested in doing something like that.
Caitlin Lawton, welcome to the broadcast. She's a realtor. She's a talented realtor. Interesting. You would take it. I thought man, I don't think it's me being selfish, it's just me being a business person. I thought the 65-35 split should have been the other way, where the 65 should have gone to the third party that's doing the work, and the city kept 35%, knowing it's basically at zero now. And the city says it's at zero in ad collection with its buses because it doesn't have the personnel to field the phone call or manage the email or basically be a point of contact, which is what you and I are good at.
Well, it all depends on how it's structured. If you're talking about just, the fee for, basically making the ad buy, that's one thing. But if I can make the money with the printing and the installation, then...
Dude, if you did it that way, then you have a...
It's almost a no-brainer without looking at if I didn't look at the paper, it would be a no-brainer. But I'm going to take a look at it when I get back to the office and see if there's anything worth looking into, because it's a natural opportunity
for you, especially.
Yeah, well, it would be hard for someone else to do it for just that 35%.
Yeah,
because then they'd have to hire someone like me to do it.
Right.
So.
Unless the city was willing to cover the cost of the execution, which I think it is. The 35% was strictly commission.
Right. Well, I guess it comes back to what are the terms, because if it's 35% and they pick who does it, well...
Yeah, that's a different story.
Yeah, because they're going to... I don't want them going online and
competitor.
Ordering... Yeah, or going online and ordering it because it's cheaper out of town.
Right. Are you seeing any of that?
A little. I think that's our biggest... when people say, where's a lot of your growth coming from, a lot of it is getting folks off of buying on the internet and realizing that there's a local company.
So it's up to you to do this, what we're doing.
Oh yeah, completely. And also other things, like I get these mailers Every time I get a postcard from a business in the mail, I look at the postmark. 9 out of 10 of them come from St. Petersburg, Florida, or a place in Pennsylvania.
What's that, Vistaprint?
No, it's Postcard Mania, and I can't remember the one in Pennsylvania.
So then you just call them up.
I sent them a letter with their card in it, say, I got your card, and it was, got a little out-of-town thing. Like, sometimes, I got a couple of responses, but, one of the most amazing things to me, PVCC. Everything you get in the mail from them comes out of St. Petersburg, Florida.
That's crazy.
It's insane to me.
Yeah, that's almost insulting.
Yeah.
I'll say it. It's insulting to me because they come to us hat in hand looking for money. And then if they don't keep it in the community.
And they get funded by, everybody's, all of our customers' kids who go there, and they, and they want, people to sponsor their fine arts things.
Right.
And then they turn around and spend the money elsewhere. And but, and I reach out to these people and say, oh, I didn't know you did that. So I've got a new tree service EDDM mailing going out next month. Just by, the guerrilla marketing of saying, we do this stuff. Promotional products is a big one. That you see 4Imprint on. It's like we get everything that 4Imprint can produce. Sometimes we can get it even cheaper. And you're dealing with a local company who is going to make sure your proof looks the way it's supposed to, and they don't send you back a rasterized piece of junk for your logo. And we can do that, and we're able to do more and more things in house, like key tags and parking passes and do not disturb signs, and basically anything made out of credit card material we can now cut.
I would love to throw, and this has been a fantastic interview, I'd love to throw more biz dev to you here. Stewart Street Domino is becoming a Mexican restaurant. Lower third on screen, Judah.
Yep, if you drive by there, they got the paper in the windows, and there's a crew working in there. They were putting in a new vent the last time I stopped in last week.
This is the Domino's on Stewart Street, right off High Street, that had been there for
right
eternity.
Across from Tubby's, yeah.
Across from Tubby's.
Yeah, it moved to Pan Tops at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah, so Tubby's is closed.
Yep.
Their equipment sold off at auction. The Stewart Street Domino's is becoming a Mexican restaurant. Yep. That entire corridor is prime for change and development.
Oh, big time. Big time. And you've got that fencing studio, which is an interesting business, but it seems like a lot of space. And again, that's a part of town where everything's single story. I could see a developer coming in. Harris Street, where my old office is, where most of that is single story. I could see a lot of folks coming in there, taking out the concrete plant, consolidating those operations elsewhere. Concrete's a tricky one because you can only drive so far before the stuff hardens. But I don't know that it needs to be in Harris Street. You imagine what you could put on that site.
Absolutely. Huge potential. How about this? Lower third on screen. Natalie's Dress taking over the Eljo's location in the Millmont shops.
Yep. About twice as much square footage.
Eljo's had a buyer fell apart in the bottom, probably like the bottom of the seventh inning, bottom of the eighth inning. Now Natalie's Dress, which was a neighbor of Eljo's in the Millmont shops, basically moves a few stores down and takes over Miles and Trent's store.
Yep. Much bigger space, which is going to be great for them. They can hold a lot more inventory because there so many times you go there and they have a sign in the window that says not taking donations or not accepting incoming clothing. Now they're going to have more space to do that, and they've got a great mission. I love them because after a certain amount of time, if it doesn't sell, they donate it to the SPCA rummage store.
That's pretty awesome.
So that is
Don
great.
Florist building under renovation.
It is. It's going to be the new location for Posture Studio, which is leaving right down the street here. Because the hotel's going in there at some point. The guy who owns the West Main apartment building.
Levine, Jeff Levine.
Jeff Levine. He's going to be putting in his AC Hotel, a Marriott brand. And
so that's
Posture
in the
Studio
Artful Lodger space.
Yep.
Posture Studio is leaving for the Don's Florist location.
On Ridge McIntyre.
Look at Conan and Owen dropping knowledge over here. More knowledge for the viewers and listeners here on the show. Tobey's, and we talked about this because of you on the show, Tobey's consolidating at Rio Road, closing the Pantop spot. And the Pantop spot, I believe, was once a Hardee's?
It was.
A Hardee's? He had a tank, an army tank outside of Hardee's where he was selling guns very successfully. Tobey's crushes it at pawn.
He does. He's got an amazing business model. Even when I called to talk to him, the young lady that answered the phone, he was we were changing pawn. She was like a Chick-fil-A employee. She was so happy and positive and helpful. And I was like, wow, this is not what I expected. It's exactly what he said. So yeah, he bought the PhotoWorks Group building there on Arroyo Road, which is just a block and a half down next to the big apartment building that's going up there. And PhotoWorks Group sold to a company in the Valley, and he bought the building and is consolidating everything in that location. So he's got, I think it's a 10,000 square foot building.
Get out of town.
It's 2 floors, so he's going to have administrative offices upstairs. But he's going to have a giant show. He's knocking down walls and building out space for his counters. Got lots of parking.
Good for Tobey.
Yeah, no, it's a great location. It's a great location for him.
More news and notes to get to. The viewers and listeners are loving this right here. Vu Noodles moving to the former Cinema Taco location.
Yep.
This is a big one.
That's my next stop. I got to go measure their sign.
Vu Noodles.
Yep.
And they're transitioning from
the old crepe spot,
on Water Street.
The crepe closet on Water Street.
So they're pretty much going the same spot,
flipping over to the other side,
flipping on the mall.
Yep.
Do you like the move to Cinema Taco?
I just don't know how anyone operated out of that small space.
You're saying the crepe spot or the Cinema Taco spot?
The crepe spot. They're now going to have sit-down space. You didn't have sit-down space, was on the street. If you've got bad weather, nobody's coming to stand in line to get noodles. Now you can at least walk indoors and get your meal. So I think that's great.
I love it. Give and Take Coffee working on taking the old Spice Diva spot in Alan Kajine's building.
Yeah. Oh, my wife's landlord, Alan. They're looking at expanding. They were in the little tiny old Spice Diva space outside, that little closet.
Yeah.
They moved inside when the gift shop closed a while back, and they've been looking at the old or the most recent Spice Diva right next to Orzo.
Yep.
That's all papered over.
Is that Phyllis was the Spice Diva? I think it was Phyllis Hunter.
I thought she sold it to a pair of gents. She had the small one outside.
And then when it expanded,
when it moved inside, when it took the old the French cook space.
Yeah.
The
cooking shop.
Yeah, a couple of guys took that over, and now hopefully it's going to become an expanded coffee shop, which will be a great compliment because Feast doesn't open in the mornings.
Right. That's a great spot for it.
And right now, Give and Take doesn't have a whole lot in the way of food. But
and you love the Give and Take owner.
Oh, she's wonderful. She's a really interesting person. She has got some really creative coffees. They had a rosemary. I can't remember. It was a rosemary infused coffee. And she's working with local graphic artists to come up with a line of merch. So she's really engaged with the community.
Nice. How about this one? The growth of the direct primary care business model. Non-insurance, monthly subscription, healthcare, 2 growing practices in Ivy and Crozet. I want to highlight one of my favorite operators that's not in Ivy or Crozet, but it's the same direct primary care business model. Dr. Rebecca Downey across from the Truist in Court Square. But You're right, this business model is exploding.
Yeah. So there's a husband and wife doctor team in across the street from Harris Teeter in Crozet in those buildings. And then there's I think it's Dr. Johnson is behind Dooners. And they both run the subscription-based primary care, no insurance.
Which is genius.
It's just a different way of looking at it. We talked about doing a direct mail campaign, and it's like, well, do you want to do it, demographic driven? And she said, no. It's just like our customers are everybody, because you've got people who just say, I'd kind of rather, on the more affluent end of the scale, where it's like I'd rather kind of self-insure, because I'm paying $1,500 a month for insurance, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I can
for you and your wife.
No, just me.
Oh, just you, Jesus.
Yeah, I'm over 60, good so Lord. Yeah, we're each paying $1,500 a month. Yeah. So yeah, I could see a lot of people going, the self-insurance route or buying, one of those catastrophic policies for when you get hit by a truck.
Yeah.
But for your day-to-day, kind of the way it used to be, you go see somebody and you, instead of paying out of pocket, you're paying a monthly, and all the colds and flus and general aches and pains and discomforts are covered. But the fact that there are at least 3 MDs within a few miles of each other there in Crozet that's a big change.
And prior to COVID, this model did not exist, folks. A couple more points here. The hour flies by when you're having fun. Your item in the notebook: former burned down hotel raised by the same builders as apartments on Ivy Road.
Yeah, Purcell Construction put their fencing up, and you drive by there, and it's razed to the ground. I don't know if it's still going to be a hotel like they were talking about originally. I'm not sure who the current owner is, and if it is the same guy as before. But progress. It's
because that's been there for a while.
It was sitting there burned for at least 3 years.
Yeah, and it's a total eyesore right there.
Yeah.
How about this one that comes from LinkedIn? I truly love this interview. Here's another for you guys to chew on. If you had to locate a food service business in the area, where would you locate it? The Ivy Corridor, Dairy Market, or the Downtown Mall? It's a great question.
Ivy Corridor.
I would go Ivy Corridor too.
Yeah.
I would absolutely go Ivy Corridor.
Yeah.
Why? Okay.
Why not the other? Why not the other two?
Yeah. Not to put you on the spot.
No, a downtown mall. People, it's just nasty.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it just is.
Yeah. I will say this, and we talked about this a few weeks ago on the I Love CVille show, Judah, that there's some policy that's coming in play before City Council, where the policy will allow Charlottesville to take the possessions of the houseless that are sleeping on the mall. And this is coming before council in September. So this coming month in September, City Council will be able to vote on the opportunity or the ability of Charlottesville, and I would hate to God if this fell on the police, where they would be able to take the personal belongings of people that are sleeping on the downtown mall from them. I hope to God that does not fall unconscious in the police department.
I just think that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
And why do you say that? You're saying that will not have an impact? Is that why you're saying it?
Well,
or are you just saying it villainizes whoever's doing it?
Well, it does a lot of things. It villainizes whoever's doing it, and it's going to be the police.
Yeah.
You know that. The second thing is
maybe
just
Parks and Rec.
A lot of these folks don't have a whole lot. So what are you really...
You're taking their life. They're pretty much they're one of the few reasons they have to be alive.
But what? Some clothes? You can get that at the Haven. Yeah, it's just like, it's not like you're repossessing their car or you're fining them. Not that I'm advocating those things, but there's something has to be done if you want the downtown mall to be a viable place.
So you're saying the downtown mall is not your pick because of the houseless. I am in agreement with you 100%.
But also parking
yeah.
is not a pleasant experience.
It hasn't recovered since COVID. How about Dairy Market? I had a conversation with Dino yesterday.
Good, because I need to talk to him.
He's trying really hard.
I think there's some good opportunities there. The new Sunpins place is tremendous. I went and talked to George, another Darden grad who's the owner there.
This is the Duck Pin Bowling?
The Duck Pin Bowling and Darts place.
Okay.
I think that's a really I think entertainment, that kind of thing, especially when the students come back, is just going to be huge. But even now in the summertime, I went there at lunchtime to see them, and they were pretty busy. I think it's hard to market a food court because food service really needs at least 2 seatings a day, and I don't. Unless you're fine dining like Tavola and you don't have that big a footprint,
they're not getting 2 turns a day.
Well, not even two turns. Certainly not 2 full. You're not getting 2 meals out of it.
Yeah.
You may get early lunch and late lunch, but that's all you're getting is lunch. I don't know how they survive. How a food service of the food court kind of food can survive long term. Move-through is great. People are always going to want ice cream. Dino's Pizza and Chicken are great foods, and those have been the long-term tenants there. Everybody
100%.
Else has been, it's been a bit of a revolving door. Going to be interesting to see what happens. Star Hill often is empty.
Dude,
How
is Star Hill staying open there?
And you've seen issues with the other breweries in town maintaining them. So I think that's a tricky one. They fixed the parking situation by having free parking, but it's still it's a really noisy place. That may be great for young families and kids and students, but my wife and I go in there, we get an ice cream and we'll eat it in our car. We're not gonna sit in there with all the noise and the screaming. And then they bring in DJs and whatnot. It's just like that's not what we're looking for in a lunch place.
Yeah.
And we used to go to dinner when South and Central was open, but that for whatever reason didn't survive. I just I think Cumbre will do well because it's delicious stuff, and everybody loves coffee, and that's nearby coffee for there. But that would not be my choice. Ivy Corridor, it's tough because, like you said, the university took over Ivy Square, so how much more open real estate is there? Because you never know what the university is going to do with that space. A couple of places like what was the great Tokyo Rose, is now a Latino market.
Mm-hmm. That place is great.
Oh, LTO, yeah. I mean, he's
got a restaurant and a market.
Yeah, and he just opened a laundromat over by Whole Foods.
I didn't know that.
There wasn't a laundromat there. He just turned it over to an LTO laundromat.
Good for him.
Yeah. I mean, there just aren't that many. You've got the space over by Shenandoah Joe's. They always seem to have an opening or two. But, unless they do something with where Anderson Seafood sets up there across from the Boar's Head, unless that becomes something viable, or they do something down by the old Ivy store, which is under new ownership now.
Yep.
Hoping they'll bring back the Christmas lights.
Mm-hmm.
They've got their pet mascot. They've got an Australian Shepherd.
Nice.
Not Homer the cat, but they've got a dog. But yeah, or even over by Duners, I don't know if any of those little spaces could ever support food service.
That's a good spot for it. Where Savvy Rest is, next to Duners, there's a couple home builders that call that their headquarters. It's a great spot for that.
An old bank building. But yeah, I mean, there are a couple of things. One place that I think would it'd take a lot of renovation to work, but right across from Fifth Street, there's that bank building up on the hill.
The Carter's Bank.
Was that what it is? Right across. Basically, it's across from Wawa. It's on the opposite side of the street, overlooking. It's had a for lease sign forever, but it's got a nice parking lot. It's probably 2,500, 3,000 square feet. They could probably make an addition if they needed to, but that's also an underserved. Outside of the food court, you've got it at Fifth Street. There isn't a whole lot in the way of eateries when you go out that direction.
That's true. Dude, you killed this. This is fantastic. Ginny Who said, I went Wednesday on what Conan's saying. I went Wednesday to communion at church downtown. Drove around 15 minutes looking for parking, ended up in the garage. Was 2 minutes over the 1 hour window. No problem. I'm willing to pay my prorated portion of the 2 minutes over the free 1 hour. The machine would not take cash. So instead, I had to use my credit card and then got popped credit card fees for not paying cash, even though the cash machine wasn't working at the garage. Yeah. Absolutely ridiculous, she says.
But there's no human there. One last thing for you. How many licensed businesses do you think there are in the city of Charlottesville?
I have no idea.
Now, that includes, sole practitioner or therapist in one of the row houses across the way. Guess.
City of Charlottesville, that's not tied to population because, like me, you don't have to live in Charlottesville to operate in the city. 10,000?
Yeah, 4.
4,000?
4,000
That's
registered.
it?
That's it. 4,000 registered businesses.
I would never have known that.
And that includes all the sole proprietors, which is about half the number.
Where'd you get that data?
City.
4,000 licensed businesses that operate within the city of Charlottesville?
The city of Charlottesville.
Can you turn that into a headline for tomorrow? Can we write that down so we can talk about that? I have to digest that. 4,000? That is minuscule.
Yeah.
When you heard that stat, were you floored like I am?
More so because of the number when it says name of the business and it's just, Jerry Miller.
Yeah.
And the owner, Jerry Miller.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a place that has many employees.
4,000 licensed businesses. Absolutely unbelievable. They got to fix that.
Well, but how do you fix it in this environment when the downtown mall's a mess? There's no space. There's very little space for rent that's reasonable or, especially for a startup.
Yeah.
Who's going to move into the city, an existing business? Nobody.
Right.
You're vetoing the wetlands renovation into light industrial.
Yeah.
How do you turn it into something more than that? And when you look at those numbers, you drive up and down Jefferson Street and over here by Court Square, and you see these, nice A-frames and whatnot, and they've got 7 shingles hanging out front because there's 7 businesses in a single, old 5-bedroom house.
Yeah, right. Would that 4,000 businesses include where with my real estate holdings, we start a new LLC for every... Jerry Miller Real Estate 4 LLC, Jerry Miller Real Estate 5 LLC.
If you've got a different business license, that counts.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so you're 1/10%.
Yeah, so we have
so Jerry Miller accounts. So Jerry Miller accounts for
with the businesses
0.2% of licenses.
So that 4,000 is way less.
Yeah,
that is bananas. I am completely floored on that. What a way to end the show. Conan Owen, ladies and gentlemen, is the owner of Sir Speedy of Central Virginia. How can they contact you?
Just visit our website, sirspeedy.com. And it'll take you to Charlottesville, or you can email us at orders@sirspeedycharlottesville.com.
His contact information is all over the internet.
Yeah, and we've got 2 new employees to come visit.
Nice.
You got to check out Nacho and Cheeto.
Nice.
They're working in production.
Very nice.
Learning the ropes.
You've added 2 more kitty cats?
Yeah, we're up to 5.
5 kitty cats at Sir Speedy.
Yeah,
Very
two,
nice.
2 more from the SPCA. They're Cheddars.
Which is the cat that is like a dog?
Dash.
Dash. That's my favorite one.
Yeah. He's still everybody's favorite, and he's tolerating the interns, but he's training them well.
Dash. Conan is fantastic in this setting. We just went 75 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Conan Owen, Sir Speedy of Central Virginia, Judah Wickower behind the camera, the I Love CVille Show archive, wherever you get your social media and podcasting content. Thank you.
My pleasure.
It was our pleasure. We are back in the saddle, folks, tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Thank you kindly for joining us. So long.